Guys, what is the creepiest thing a girl has done while trying to be romantic? When I was 29, I met a 20-year-old girl who was absolutely crazy about me. She was incredibly sweet and a friend of a mutual buddy. She had a massive crush on me, but was too shy to ask me out herself, so our friend did it for her. We started dating, went on a few dates, and honestly, I enjoyed her company. She was very attractive, though extremely shy. Things were going well until, one day, she handed me a gift-wrap box. I opened it, and inside were small jars sealed with wax for what I assumed was airtight preservation. One jar had 2 of her wisdom teeth, another contained a lock of her hair, and the third, a used tampon. She was not crazy, far from it. She later admitted that she had asked our mutual friend about my intimate preferences, and somehow, he had given her the impression that personal things related to her body would make a meaningful gift. What he actually meant was something symbolic, not literal parts of her body. He later explained that he never explicitly suggested items like a tampon. She said he had been so vague and polite in his hints that she thought he was just too shy to be direct. So, she decided on her own that teeth, hair, and a tampon were thoughtful choices. I reacted calmly, without judgment. She was so painfully shy that I honestly just felt bad for her. She did not have any conditions like Asperger's or anything like that, but being homeschooled had left her with a strange mix of social awkwardness and a willingness to dive into intimate experiments. No, we did not break up over this. In fact, we started a sexual relationship afterward. She was eager to explore all sorts of things, which honestly surprised me, but given her box of surprises, maybe I should have seen it coming. It was not exactly romantic, but the first night I slept with this gorgeous girl, she wanted to prove how wild she could be. I mentioned that I liked trying unusual things in bed, and she immediately said, "Oh, I am up for anything. See this scar?" She pointed to her left collarbone. "That is from my ex. He used to drink my blood during sex." She was still ridiculously attractive, so I just played it off like it was completely normal. I met a girl at a bar, and she seemed genuinely interested in me. We hit it off right away and spent the evening talking. Turns out, she was 6 months older than me, which did not bother me at all. She seemed so cool that I figured her experience might teach me something new and exciting. And, well, it did, but not in the way I expected. After the bar closed at 2 a.m., we went back to her place. Her roommate was out of town for the holidays, so we had the apartment to ourselves. Things started to heat up, and she straddled me, then said, "Relax your mouth." Confused, I did as she asked. That is when she began what I can only describe as a tongue exploration of my mouth. It was not a passionate kiss. She was methodically sliding her tongue between my lips and around my teeth, both in the front and in the back. Occasionally, she would press her lips against mine, almost like a kiss, but mostly, it felt like she was examining every crevice of my mouth. I tried to figure out what she was doing and kissed her back, but she stopped me, saying, "No, just relax." I managed to tolerate it for about a minute before it became way too weird. The whole time, I could not shake the feeling that I was like a baby bird being fed by its mother. I gently pushed her off, lit a cigarette, and asked, "What the hell was that?" She calmly replied, "I just like doing it. I find it very intimate." Intimate is not the word I would have used to describe what just happened. After finishing half my cigarette, I stood up and told her I needed to leave, already heading for the door. I have not responded to her calls or messages since that night. In high school, I dated a girl who was really insecure. As time went on, I realized it was not going to work, so I started pulling away and eventually decided to break things off. When she caught on to what I was doing, she tried to bribe me, literally. She showed up to school with a wad of cash and offered to pay me to keep dating her. Back then, I was too proud to take it. I firmly refused, thinking it was beneath me. Now that I am in college, honestly, I would be more than happy to sell myself for that money. Tori, if you are reading this, please call me. I was standing in line to order a drink at a bar in Tallahassee when I suddenly felt something. Well, somewhere it definitely should not have been. I turned around, fist raised, only to see a very drunk college girl with her finger up my backside. I was wearing basketball shorts at the time and, admittedly, I should not have been going commando that night. So yeah, she got further than anyone should have. When I dropped my fist and yelled, "What the hell?" she responded by rapping Eminem's Guilty Conscience. And she nailed it, almost word for word, for a full minute. I just stood there frozen, trying to process the situation before deciding it was best to just walk away. No part of this story is made up. Also, florists are officially the weirdest people on the planet. My ex broke up with me, and later, when she regretted it, she tried to convince me to get back together. One of her arguments was that if we did not, she would sleep with all of my friends. I gave my friends a heads up, and they wisely decided to steer clear of her. She took this as a sign that I still cared about her. Things got even stranger when, after drinking, she snuck into my apartment to watch me sleep. Thankfully, I had locked my bedroom door. I found her passed out in the hallway. When she woke up, she left in tears, and that was the last time we ever spoke. I had never even met this girl. I was just scrolling through the Explore tab on Instagram out of boredom when I noticed a picture of myself. She had written that I was her boyfriend, and there were 3 photos where she had apparently sat near me and taken selfies with me in the background. After that, I stopped wearing headphones and started being more aware when I was in the library. One day, I noticed a girl staring at me and decided to confront her. I told her I had seen her Instagram post with my photo. She turned bright red and just screamed. That was it. She screamed and left. Honestly, it was one of the weirdest things I have ever experienced. One time in college, I spent the night with a girl after a party. I was pretty out of it, and at some point, she asked if I liked her. Drunk me said yes. The next evening, she showed up at my place again. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of something falling. I cracked one eye open and saw her rummaging through my drawers, cabinets, and even my kitchen shelves. I got up and asked her what the hell she was doing. She casually said she just wanted to get to know me better, and started asking questions about the stuff she found, like the medication in my bathroom. That was it for me. I told her to get dressed and get the hell out. I had a girlfriend who, for several months, was secretly stashing condoms in my jacket. At first, they were the cheap ones, like the kind they give out for free in public health programs. But then, they started getting fancier and more expensive. The tipping point came when I found a lambskin condom inside my water bottle. That is when I realized it was time to put an end to this strange behavior and have a serious talk with her. It was one of the weirdest things I had ever experienced, but hey, at least now I have a crazy story to tell. As a dad, I make a huge effort to keep the women I date away from my daughter's life, at least until things get serious. Despite my best efforts, a few women I dated crossed the line and tried to insert themselves into my personal life in ways that were both inappropriate and unsettling. Some would show up at my house unannounced. Others turned up at my daughter's school and refused to leave. A few stayed over after a date and refused to go, even when my daughter was coming home from a relative's place. Some even stood outside my house, trying to talk to her while she was playing in the yard. The most bizarre incident, though, was with a woman I had been seeing for only a couple of months. She took pictures from my Facebook account of me and my daughter and made them her profile pictures. I had barely interacted with her page after accepting her friend request, and when I finally looked, her profile was practically a family album, featuring me and my kid. That was a big wake-up call. Needless to say, that relationship ended very quickly. I am not sure if this qualifies as romantic, but it was definitely creepy. I went on a date with a girl I had been chatting with online. We had exchanged pictures, and everything seemed normal, so we agreed to meet for lunch and see how things went from there. During lunch, she kept laughing like everything I said had some hidden meaning. At first, it was tolerable, but it quickly got annoying. By the end of lunch, I was not really interested in pursuing anything further with her. But then she suggested going back to my place, and, well, she was too attractive for me to say no. When we got to my apartment, she said she needed to use the bathroom. She was in there for about 20 minutes. I figured she just needed some time. No big deal. But when she finally came out, she had this massive grin on her face. We started talking again, and she casually mentioned that I used the same shampoo, soap, toothpaste, and a bunch of other products as she did. That is when it hit me. She had spent all that time in the bathroom snooping through my stuff, digging through the cabinets and my medicine drawer. It was seriously unsettling. But the weirdest part? Later, while I was sitting at my computer, she walked up behind me and licked my bald head. That was the moment I knew I needed to end things, no matter how attractive she was. She hid in the back seat of my car to surprise me after work. She wanted to do something cute and unusual, but I thought I was being robbed. She scared the hell out of me. She could not understand why I did not find it funny. In her eyes, I was just being a buzzkill, and we broke up shortly after. We had only been dating for a couple of weeks before we called it off, but she still came by my workplace a couple of times. I made it very clear that I did not want any drama at work. And what did she do? She waited by my car late at night after my shift. That evening, my coworkers and I stayed late and had a couple of beers, so by the time I got to my car, it was close to midnight. I put my key in the lock, and suddenly, I felt a hand on my shoulder. She thought it would be cute to scare me. I almost punched her right in the face. Honestly, I have no idea what stopped me. My heart was pounding out of my chest. I weigh about 225 pounds, and she was maybe 130, but for a split second, I thought she was a monster. That is how much she freaked me out. When I realized it was her, I felt a mix of shock and pity. She had been waiting for me for hours. I still cannot figure out what was going through her mind at night. 3 months into our relationship, she gave me a handmade coupon that said, "My name plus her name equals forever." It was kind of sweet at the time, but things got awkward after we broke up almost 8 months later. Even though we have been apart for years now, she still messages my mom asking about me. My mom loves her and even gives her advice on how to reach out to me. I have not replied to her in about 3 years, but the messages still keep coming, around once a month. One time, after a school party, a girl broke into my parents' house, where I was living at the time, and slept in my bed. I did not come home that night because I had stayed over at a friend's place. The next morning, I was shocked when my mom called me and asked, "Who is this girl in your bed?" To this day, I still have no idea how she managed to get into the house. She figured out my schedule and would wait for me before and after classes. If I was sitting on a chair, she would plop herself down on my lap and refuse to move until someone yelled at her. She grabbed my hands when I walked by, trying to hold me back if I attempted to pull away. Then things got worse. She started hitting me, saying it was just a joke, but honestly, I have been in fights that felt less aggressive. Eventually, I reported her to the school administration. I explained how she was constantly stalking me and touching me, even though I had repeatedly told her to stop. The school arranged for her to have a meeting with a counselor. After that, things spiraled even more. According to witnesses, she spent a whole month walking through the school shouting my name and yelling about me. I stopped attending classes during that time because it had gone way too far. She was clearly just trying to make friends and find a boyfriend, but she went about it completely the wrong way. I felt a little sorry for her. In the end, I teamed up with a good friend who agreed to pose as my girlfriend. She would hold my hand and sit next to me whenever the stalker was nearby. She even made up stories about our relationship to make the stalker feel uncomfortable. One time, the stalker even tried to follow us around. But my friend was not the type to put up with that. She confronted her and made her leave first, then we went the opposite direction. We spent a good while wandering through the city just to make sure she was not tailing us. It was exhausting, but at least it worked. I work in retail at a hardware store, and there is this woman who is a regular customer. These days, I have gotten pretty good at avoiding her when she comes in, but it was not always easy. For context, she is about 40 or 50 years older than me. She always asks me to grab something from the bottom shelf, different items every time, just so she can stare at my butt. As uncomfortable as that was, it was not even the worst part. The really creepy moment came when, every time I bent down, she would inhale deeply through her nose, lick her lips, and make this weird smacking sound. Then, she would let out this slow, drawn-out, satisfied ah, like she had just taken a bite of a perfect steak. The first time it happened, I finally understood what women mean when they say they feel objectified. I felt a little violated and more than a bit grossed out. I barely knew this girl. We went to the same high school and had math class together. I guess she found my number through Facebook or something. One morning, I woke up to a photo on my phone. It was a close-up of her, but not in a sexy way, but a literal close-up of her, well, chocolate starfish. I did not respond to it at all. I do not think she meant it as a romantic gesture. It was just straight up creepy. I was on a train, and the girl sitting behind me was having the most boring phone conversation I had ever heard. She was rambling on about some guy she supposedly liked. I could not help but listen because she was talking so loudly it was impossible to ignore her. Then things got weird. The guy she was describing sounded an awful lot like me. I turned around, and she suddenly said, "Oh, he is looking at me now. I wonder what he will do. I wonder if he likes me." And the kicker? She was not even on a real call. No phone in sight. Yeah, I got off at the next stop and made sure to keep as far away from that psycho as possible. I once dated a girl who carved a heart with the first letter of my name in the center on her thigh. Another ex blindfolded and tied me up, promising to do something wild. That wild thing turned out to be carving her initials on the inside of my thigh. My buddy's girlfriend showed up at my house drunk and ready to stir up some secret drama between us. For example, she said we had our song and hinted at other things like that. She even went so far as to tell me the only reason she was still dating my friend was to have an excuse to see me. I was freaked out. I calmly but firmly explained that I was not interested in any kind of relationship with her. After making sure she got home safely, I called my buddy to let him know what had happened. When he confronted her, she straight up lied and claimed that we had slept together. That night, he called me on speakerphone while she was there and asked me to tell him what happened. I gave him the same story I had told before. He immediately broke up with her and kicked her out of his house. 6 months later, she sent me an email saying she missed me. I did not respond. What about you? Do you enjoy hearing these kinds of stories, or do you have one of your own to share? Let us know what you think about this type of content, and if you want to hear more, drop your thoughts below. We would love to hear them. Don't forget to like and subscribe.